quite a bit higher so that the diff oil doesn't leak out the side you're working on. Saves you from having to top it up. And then yeah, I just block it and leave the jack kind of there so to help support it. But yeah, so we'll start taking everything apart and then show you guys some more. So I ended up buying the proper socket for doing the nut there for the bearing on the rear axle. So that's an OTC part number 6928. We got the wheel off and those bolts out, remove the axle shaft. So there's a little tab here for locking this nut on. You have to remove that. Just use a screwdriver and pop it out. And then if you have the proper size socket, you can use a socket to remove this nut, or you can see as somebody who's previously been in here used a chisel and a hammer, which isn't really the right way to do it, but it works. So we got that nut off there, just laying everything out on something clean, and then we'll you just pull on this guy here. And just make sure you don't drop the wheel bearing. Pile of dirt. And then I just like to use a bucket like that to hold it so all the oil can drip out of that end, and then we'll clean that up before we put it back on. But you can see now you have access to that sleeve, so we'll get that thing removed. So we got those bolts out. A little trick for getting that brake line loose, especially if you don't have a line wrench and it's wanting to slip on you before you strip it. It doesn't hurt to put some penetrating lube on there so it spins freely on that line. And then take a punch or a chisel and just hit this way on there just to free it. It just breaks it loose that. So we got all the stuff from the back removed. So what I do is once that brake line's removed, it's a lot easier to just either pull the plunger out of there or push it all the way in, because now there's no pressure there. So I just have to give her a little smack with a hammer to break it loose. As you can see, it's pretty rusty. But if you don't want to take the brakes apart because you don't have the parts or whatever the deal is, and you just want to get that off, you can just do that and you can pull that right out of there and slide a new one in without having to take all the springs and stuff apart. So in a perfect world, you'd replace it all and be new and not have to come back in here. So we got the slave cylinder in, this drum back on, and the bearing put in. We just ran it in with the ratchet with that new socket we got. And then we're just gonna torque it. The spec we found was 140 foot-pounds, and then back it off a third of a turn. And then you can check the end play. I think it says 5 to 8 thou, somewhere in there. So yeah, we'll torque that up then, and then get ready to put that axle shaft in. So we got the tire mounted and torqued to 140, and the axle shaft bolts there are torqued to 70 foot-pounds. So all you got to do now is just bleed the brakes And yeah, if you lost some diff oil, obviously check your diff oil level, make sure it's good. And then, yeah, you're good to go.